Greetings, Nick with Sweetwater here, and I'm backstage.
Oh my! Father Nick.
Father Nick, great to see you.
Good to see you too.
My ear is now shot. I'm now officially deaf in this ear, but anyway, thanks for that.
You're married and you have kids. You have any hearing either.
Selective hearing at best.
Selective, exactly.
So we're here backstage at the Enormo Dome somewhere in Grand Rapids, Michigan, with the one, the only, Zakk Wylde, the myth, the man, the legend.
And I'll carry on with that same conversation. That's exactly what Barb says to me every time I say that to her. She says, "Okay, that's wonderful. Now do the dishes and bring out the garbage." But carry on.
So the man, the myth, the legend who puts out the garbage, yeah. And you're doing the Pantera celebration, of course, with Charlie,
we're having
Rex,
a blast,
and Philip.
man. Totally, without a doubt. It's always great.
And we're here
celebrating the fellas every night. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
Always. Just did a wonderful rendition of Floods at Soundcheck. Very moving, very touching.
Yeah, without a doubt, every night, man.
We're here to discuss Zakk's gear, the stuff he's using. And as one would imagine, this is Zakk Wylde. So he's going to use Zakk Wylde's gear, and he's going to sound like Zakk playing tribute to his best friend in the world, or one of them.
Yeah, I mean, these rig rundowns are always cool. Regards, I'm saying, when we were like 15 years old, 16, if we would have found out, you know, what Jimmy Page is using, what Jimi Hendrix is using, what Eric Clapton's using, you know, and Cream, what's his rig. I think about it as, you know, like when I first got my first amp. I mean, it's all trial and error at that point. You hear what's good, or you see ads of your favorite players, what they're playing or whatever. Then the first time you step into a big muff through your amp, you're like, oh my God, it sounds like the records, you know what I mean? So, you know, because you have distortion. And then you start finding out as you get older, you know, if you didn't know about overdrive, and it's just like if you had a amp, it's just like, man, how do they get all that sustain or whatever? And it's like, oh, it's a distortion pedal.
Right.
You know, and then you're like, oh, so that's the magic trick. You know what I mean? And they're like, or delays at the end of something, it's like, oh, that's a delay pedal. It's like, oh, okay. So, you know, with, you know, King Edward. So it was just like, what does that sound on it? It's a flanger.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you start learning about pedals, or the, you know, the rotovibe. How's Jimi Hendrix getting that sound? Well, it's, you know, it's a univibe. It creates a Leslie. What's a Leslie? You know what I mean? So you don't, you know, so you just trial and error and learning. Like even on this thing, you know, like you wouldn't, you know, being 15 years old, you wouldn't know. It's just like, well, I'm stepping on my pedal when I get off of it. Like, how can I play walk without you know, without it, you know, screaming feedback and everything like that. And then you get like one of the Dunlop, you know, the noise gates on it. And without that, you're not going to.
In the water, yeah.
Well, then you're tap dancing the whole time on the pedal. You know what I mean? In the studio, Dime could have done it on the pedal, you know, dun, and then just stepping on the pedal on and off. But I mean, you know, the noise gates are, I mean, for, you know, achieving with Dime to recreate that, you need the gates, you know what I mean? So it's always fun doing the rig rundowns, but I always try to keep it as simple as possible, because I remember when I first started playing with Ozzy, everybody had the Bradshaw rigs.
Right,
and
refrigerator-sized racks.
I mean, but that was the thing, and that's what was popular at the time, you know, so, and they do work, I mean, they're great. I mean, you know, Luke had, you know, a gigantic one, Neil Schon and this and that, but I mean, it's just like, by the time I got back to like No More Tears, it was just like I had this whole rig, my Lee Jackson rig, and it was just, you know, it was amazing and everything like that, but it's just, at the end of the day, I remember when I was just plugging into my Marshalls, my JCM 800, two of them I go, this just sounds awesome without anything. So for me, from that point on, you know, it's always just been, you get a good amp, whatever amp it is that you like, whether it's a Marshall, whether it's a Mesa Boogie, whether it's a Top Hat, whether it's a Wizard, all the great amps that are out there. I mean, whatever it is that you like the best, you should be able to just plug into it and turn it on and just, you know, move the dials a little bit to where you want. If you want less treble, you just turn it down. You go, okay, that's fine. The manual shouldn't be like a Nassau, you know, like you're an astronaut. It's just like, I'm just trying to make a glass of Tang, you know what I mean? Like, what do I need all this for? It's always fun having gear, I mean, because we all love it. Cool pedals and cool sounds and everything like that. Your main sound, Dime loved the solid state and he loved the Randalls. Right. You know what I mean? So it's just like, and that worked for him, whereas like a lot of other guys wouldn't want to play solid state. No. Or anything like that. But I mean, for Dime was like, this is perfect for me. You know what I mean? So, because of the attack on them and everything like that. Once you get a good sounding amp, you're good to go.
So your rig, so like you said, you're using the Warhammer. You've got EMG 8185, which you've been using forever.
Yeah, forever. And the reason why I ended up using the story with the EMGs, I mean, this was before I started playing with the boss. So I was giving guitar lessons at the time, and I remember I had a Marshall combo, like a 78 combo with a master volume. And I remember one of my students, he had a Fender, I think he had a Fender Mustang or Fender Jag. No, I think it was a Fender Mustang because it was thinner than a Jag. So he had the Mustang, and I remember he had black pickups, and I was like, well, oh, what kind of pickups are those? And he just goes, oh, they're EMGs. You got to put a battery in your guitar. And I was like, a battery in your guitar? Oh, I don't get that. So anyway, all I remember is I plugged in his guitar. I hit a G chord coming through I was like, wow, that's what that amp's supposed to sound like. You know, because I had my Les Paul with the PAFs in it.
Right.
The clarity.
Yep, the power.
It was like,
clarity,
it was as
right?
if somebody had a moving blanket on the cabinet and took the moving blanket off, and that's what my Les Paul sounded like. And then this Fender, with the little body, you know, my Les Paul Custom had a thick body. I mean, you know, more wood, there's more everything, and it's just like, this guitar sounds a trillion times better, you know, clarity. There was just no film or,
right.
It wasn't muddled. Chimey highs were in there, the mids, the bottom end. I was just like, wow. So I didn't need any sales pitches or anything. It was just right there.
Right.
You know, so, and you know, because I mean, basically what a pickup is, regardless what pickups you're using, it's a microphone. If you have a $12,000 Telefunken microphone 2 mic, there's a reason why that thing costs $12,000.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if we're doing motion pictures, they're using those things because 20 blocks away, you can hear me walking down the street. You know what I mean? So, you know, like all the stuff you hear in movies of just like, you know, paper getting crinkled up or anything like that. I could just do it right there. The crispness and how clean it is. And the clarity. So that's what pickups are.
Right.
You know, like you said, when you're 15, 16 years old learning, you're just plugging into anything, not realizing all the ingredients that go into the soup.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, same thing with King Edward. It's just like, yeah, he used a plexi, but the Variac that was on it, because it lowered the voltage, when he was just messing around with, he was like, whoa, what is that? So it's a bunch of the different things that go into the soup to give you that sound.
Gotcha. So the next part of your soup, so you go EMGs, Warhammer, then you go into your Dunlop Wild Wow.
Yeah, I mean, well, what I'll do is I don't know, you know, like certain people go, oh, how come you go that way or whatever. I've just always done that since I was a kid. So I always pretty much lined it up this way anyway. So this goes, there's the amp, I mean, if you know, the Wild Audio heads over here, it would go right out of this into the amp, into the overdrive. I got the copy at the end of, you know, the carbon copy, the delay at the end of like certain solos for This Love and things like that, or at the end of Floods. Got the phase in case I want to use that anywhere, and the rotovibe, and obviously the wah I use on certain things. You know?
Right. Yeah. So your signal path goes guitar, wah,
yeah, and then I
phase.
plug into the wah-wah pedal. You know, go amp over here, then guitar over there.
And if I'm remembering correctly, so after that, then it goes over to the Grady station, and you've got your Wild Audio chorus, and that's splitting to 2 Wild Audio amps.
The chorus
amps.
is going into 2 heads.
Right. And you've also got Grady's riding the MXR flanger doubler for you on certain things like the dive bombs and stuff.
Because what he used to do with Dime, was integral. I mean, he's like literally like part of the band.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So right arm,
because Dime was like, bro, I can't be bothered with this stuff. You know, I mean, this way I could be like with the whammy pedal and everything like that. When we have like any of our friends coming up there, they're working it. Tiller was working it. Scott Ian's working it. You know, like, Nate, if you want to work it tonight, just
go ahead.
If you know Becoming, have at it. You know what I mean? That's always the best. We have the guest star appearance on Becoming. You know, it's just like, oh yeah, well, Father Dick's going to be running the pedal tonight, so. Yeah, it's always great. But I mean, yeah, so Dime was just like, yeah, it'll just free me up so I could be up on stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you can move around and not worry about.
Yeah, but obviously Dime was doing it in the studio, you know, don't wham. But yeah, it's just the whammy, and then also we just started using recently is just I brought my Roland Jazz chorus out. I mean, because nothing could beat the Roland Jazz chorus, you know, for what it does. You know, with that chorus on there. And the clarity. But before that, I mean, usually what I just do, I turn the overdrive pedal off. That's off, and I just roll my volume down, and there's my clean sound.
Yeah,
there's a little bit of hair on it. You know, a Roland Jazz chorus is going to give you 0 hair.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, that's the beauty of that amp. But yeah, so the guys were just like, Rex was like, hey, Zakk, why don't you bring a Roland Jazz chorus? I said, yeah, we'll give it a shot. I said, I usually never use it because, I mean, it's just more stuff that can go wrong for me.
Yeah,
and, you know, I mean, I'm just like, you know, and not only that, you know, like when I'll turn it down, it's clean and it has a little bit of hair on it, but I mean, it's still warm and it's still, to me, I'm like, this is fine for, you know, for the live situation.
But that worked for Father Hendrix, didn't it? Just clean sound, turn the guitar down.
Yeah, well, that's all Hendrix ever did, or Robin Trower does, or Randy ever did. You know, like for the middle of I Don't Know or anything like that.
Just roll your volume.
He would just roll the volume down and turn off his pedal.
Yeah.
Or even King Edward. I mean, Ed didn't never even use the distortion pedal. You know, he always had the overdrive was coming out, and then he would turn it down. For the clean stuff. So.
And you're still using your EV Black Label.
Yeah, I'm still using I have the cabinets are still loaded with the 300 watt EVs.
Yeah, and I noticed that Grady also had the JC-100 is actually driving a cabinet as well. So he's not using the internal speakers, it's driving a cab, which is really
it's
cool.
not going out of the two speakers that are in the jazz course. It's actually going out of one of my 4x12s.
Yeah, it sounds great.
As far as that round, super clean, chorusy, gorgeous tone, you can't, those Roland Jazz choruses are just, that's what you got to use.
So last question, my friend. What would your advice be to a kid who's looking to find his own sound?
Well, I think just experiment and see what you like. But I think Ken Fisher with all the train wrecks, you know, anything you read about the history of Ken Fisher and everything with train wreck amps, like 4 knobs on those amps. And, you know, there's no effects loops. There's no anything on those amps.
No reverb,
no reverb, no effects loops, no anything. So it's just like you plug in, it's got to sound good there.
Right.
So I think with any... If I was 15 years old, 16 years old, I'd pretty much end up with the rig I have now. Just, you know, my Marshall JCM 800s, the 2203s, they're just phenomenal. And then, you know, because it's such a simple circuit.
It punches you in the chest.
Yeah, and it just sounds good. Any of my friends could play through it and they'll, you know, whether it's Richie Faulkner, Jared James Nichols, Tyler Bryant. I mean, whenever we've toured with any of the fellas, when I do the Generation Axe thing, I mean, it's just... could plug into my rig and it's going to sound good no matter what. I mean, you, whether you're playing Highway to Hell, step on the pedal and you want to do solos, whatever, it's guaranteed to sound good. So, I mean, I think it's all preference though.
Right.
You know what I mean? There is no right and there is no wrong. I mean, it's just whatever works for you. In the immortal words of Father Steve Vai, Steve would just say, Zakk, there is no such thing as best. It's what's your favorite, which is really the truth. It's just like, well, what's your favorite Sabbath record? What's your favorite Zeppelin record? It depends on if we're road tripping, which album we've been burnt out on or which album we're in the mood for.
Right.
That's your best album at the current moment. You know what I mean?
Your current favorite, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just like any of my buddies, you know, when we with Les Pauls, it's like you got your Les Paul standard guys, you got your Les Paul custom guys. You got Telly guys and you got Strat guys, you know what I mean?
Yep.
You know, Robin Trower's a Strat guy, he's not a Telly guy. Albert Lee, you know what I mean? He's going to be a Telly guy all day, and with his Music Man now. But I mean, it's just like Telly guys are Telly guys. You know what I mean? So and they could put them on anything. They're still going to sound great. Anybody that plays on anything. Like Angus loves his SGs. Tony Iommi loves his SGs. You know, could they play Les Pauls? Yeah, of course they could. Put them on a Telly, they're going to sound great. You know what I mean? It's all in the player, but it's all what guitars you love and what you're hearing, what sounds good to you. You know what I mean? But I think, for me, it's just trying to keep it as simple as possible. You know what I mean? That's why I said it's just like, as soon as you start putting more things into the mix, there's just more things that can go wrong.
Yeah, and then harder to find where the problem is, yeah.
Yeah, just like, you know, being married and having, you know, 10, 15 different girls all over the planet, you know what I mean? Just that you probably not advisable, you know, because there's 15 life-altering things that could go wrong there. So we'll just leave that out. It's kind of like the rig.
And on that note, Zakk, thank you, my friend. Marriage advice from Mr.
And that
World.
was some good advice at the end there. Just don't go there. The most important advice throughout this whole rig rundown was the very end. The end bit.
Yeah, don't have 15 girls around the planet when you're married.
It's probably not going to end well. The gig, you can get through the next gig, you know what I mean, and rebound. This may just end, and there may be not another gig.
And there you have it, folks. Rig advice, marriage advice, life advice from the one, the only Father Zakk Wylde.
Oh my!